Time.
There you go.
That it is.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Woodlands Amateur Radio Club meeting. Pete had to be someplace tonight. I don't know exactly where. So he asked me if I would be kind enough to host the meeting and go through a couple of things with everybody and introduce you to some technology that you may or may not be have experienced before, and hopefully you'll get something out of it tonight. I know that a few months ago, Pete had touched on using WinLink for packet communications. I don't know how deep he got into it with everybody, but I have a presentation. I'm going to do a live demonstration and Q&A, and as I said, hopefully everybody will get something out of it. Well, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to stick around as late as we need to stick around to get things started. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it will work correctly.
I'll be here to tell you it isn't.
I'm sure. Okay. Now let's see, advanced content from second camera. Now I need to switch cameras to find the correct camera. There we go. Look at that. See, it's a good thing I tested it out before.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to switch across to our presentation and hold on 1 second. I got to make the screen smaller here. And away we go.
And here we are.
All right. Tonight we're going to talk about WinLink using two technologies that are in WinLink, PACKET and VARA. I know, as I said a little earlier, Pete had touched on PACKET a while back. I don't know how deep he got into it with you guys, but we're going to take it a little bit further tonight and talk about VARA for those of you that are not familiar with it. Okay, first off, we'll go with a little review. Why use digital messaging at all? Well, it's faster than voice, conveys more information in a short amount of time. They travel longer distances than voice using better spectrum efficiency. They use forward error correction so that the message gets sent and received correctly, much like the old modems of old with forward error correction. Can send forms, messages, lists, all types of content as attachments. And it's important when accuracy can make the difference between life and death, especially if you're using it for emergency communications work. Most of us have very little occasion to practice this type of stuff outside of amateur radio exercises, and our daily lives involve mostly normalcy, except for the last couple of years, COVID notwithstanding. So why use WinLink digital modes? WinLink is generally preferred digital emergency messaging service in South Texas. Up in the Northeast, NBEMS is more widely used with FLADIGI, FLAAM, FLAMessage, FLA this, FLA that, the other thing. Emergency communication skills are perishable, so practice makes perfect. And in an emergency, we might have to hit the ground running, doing regular exercises with different antennas, radios, and batteries to prepare yourself should you need to bug out. You do need to send this type of messaging to people. It helps develop speed and efficiency, gives us the opportunity to experiment, et cetera, and exercises help us better operate within NIMS and ICS, which is the incident control system, as well as the hospital incident management system. If anybody there does any work with the hospitals around here, as well as the American Red Cross, TransStar, et cetera, the Woodlands Emergency Operations Center, et cetera. And it also tests the viability of the systems and the nodes and the gateways and makes the hardware administrators very happy. So we'll start with a little overview about what the actual Windows WinLink 2000 architecture is. Normally, the network operates starting at the bottom, individual stations, clients operating a computer with some type of a link, whether it's through the internet, through Telnet, or through RF to what's known as an RMS gateway. And those are the local stations attached to towers, antennas, such as W0MAC10. Not very familiar with the ones up north of us, but I know that there's about 15 of them within reachable distance here in the Houston area. And from there, the messaging either travels to the internet and to message servers. There's 5 of them. There's actually 6 of them now. This is an older slide. And basically the information gets passed back and forth that way. That's when the internet works. When the internet does not work and everything falls apart, the RMS gateways can talk to each other through HF using a protocol called PACKET, which I'll touch on in a little while, which is more geographically separated between the nodes, and they can travel long distances. And that's how the messages get to and from the system. Windows 2000, I keep calling it Windows 2K, WinLink 2000 different modes of protocols. I'm sure you're all familiar with what Telnet is. It was basically internet mail. One of the 2 that we'll talk about tonight will be PACKET, many stations on one frequency, forwarding to message receiving services, message relay service if internet's unavailable. And the drawback of that is you need a hardware or software TNC. I don't know if it's necessarily a drawback, but that's a caveat. You need a TNC in order to translate to and from the computer. There's PACKET 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is not legal in the United States unless the FCC grants a waiver, which they generally do whenever there is any type of emergency. We have a waiver in right now because of the storms, so we can use PACKET 4. Without a doubt, the fastest, clearest, best protocol to use with automatic frequency tracking. It locks into the other modem and stays there. The only drawback is the modems are very expensive. You can only get them from one manufacturer, and they cost upwards of $1,500 for the least expensive one, and go up to $2,500 for the most expensive one. They're used a lot on ships out on the ocean. RDOP is an older protocol. It's got very good error correction, but very slow bandwidth speed. It's also going to be deprecated soon, which brings me to WinMore, which many of you who have done digital messaging before may remember. That is no more. It's been deprecated and taken out because of its slow speeds. It has been replaced with my favorite, VARA, which is a high-speed off-DM-based modulation, can be used over HF as well as FM, and requires a radio sound card or a signal link for those of you that have older radios that do not have sound cards built into them. So let's touch on PACKET real quick. There's 3 different ways of sending and receiving PACKET information. You need a computer, and the first method is to use a radio that has a TNC built in, such as an Alinco 635T with the installed TNC, or like a Kenwood D72 Alpha, which has a TNC built into it. The second way would be using an old school physical TNC. That's a Cantronics unit, and that would connect to any modern radio, the ICOM 7100 being a good example. And the third way, which is the newer way of doing things, where you don't need a piece of hardware at all, you use what's known as sound modem software. It's by a company called, a call sign of Uniform Zebra 7 Hotel Oscar. And that's the website where you pick it up, but I'll cover that in a little while. In order to set up your system to use WinLink and PACKET, PACKET is a software module that is built into WinLink, so you don't have to download an extra module. You connect your computer to the TNC, connect the TNC to the radio, or in the case of sound modem, you just connect your computer to your radio, and you set up the TNC configuration inside WinLink. And I'll demonstrate this for VARA, but it's basically the same thing for PACKET. At that point, you would download the sound modem software, select your sound card under your devices, and set up the radio for push to talk or Vox, depending on whether you have control of your radio through the software or not. And I can't get into every single scenario because there's so many different radios and so many different setups, but there are extensive online tutorials for your particular radio, I can guarantee you, on how to configure WinLink. VARA, as I said earlier, is a high-speed modem based on OFDM, 42 BPS symbol rate. It's actually faster now because they came out with a new and improved protocol. I believe you can go to 48 BPS or higher. The bandwidth is, it was 2400 was the max. You now can go up to 2700 hertz wide. 84, 89 BPS is very conservative. It does go a lot faster than that over a strong connection. I have seen it quite a bit higher than that around this area. And there is, I believe, 21 different speed levels now with the new version. So that's an older slide there. How do you connect to VARA? Well, you need a sound card equipped radio. For example, Flex 6600, Kenwood 590, SG, I believe, an Elecraft, an ICOM 7100, Yaesu FT 991A. As an example, I happen to use two radios. I can use my Connect Systems CS800. If I had a SignalLink sound card to go into that, I could use that. I use my FT991A, which I'll show you guys in a little while how that works. All these radios have built-in sound cards. For people that do not have built-in sound cards, you've got the famous SignalLink, which is a USB sound card that will connect to your computer. Now, your computer does, in fact, have its own sound card, but your radio does not. And you'd think you'd be able to use a sound card in your radio to generate the sound going in and out of your radio, but you cannot. You need an interface like the SignalLink. They sell for about 140 bucks from Tigertronics. Every once in a while, they'll have a sale at a ham fest. And each time you buy it, you can get, it comes with the cable for your specific radio. And they have cables for just about every radio under the sun. And you can purchase, you know, different cables if you'd like to use it with different radios. These are some older, that's a TS430S, a Kenwood, one of the better radios of all time, a Yaesu 2400, 746 from ICOM, and a bunch of CCRs, as we call them, cheap Chinese radios, Baofangs, TYTs, Anytones, etc., along those lines. So how would you set up VARA on your computer? Well, first you want to download it. It is a module that you have to add on top of WinLink, and you can get that from that address right there, rossmodem.wordpress.com, or you can just do a Google search for VARA HF. There are two different versions. There is an HF version as well as a FM version. If you do only local repeaters under VHF, you don't do HF, you obviously do not need the HF version. Or it's, if you do both, you would have to download both versions. There is a free version, which is limited in speed. And every time you send a message, you'll get a pop-up reminder that you are speed limited, and you can buy it for a cheap 70 bucks. Every once in a while, we have a bulk order. If we can get more than 5 or 10 people to order it at once, he drops the price down to about $50. So it is definitely worth the upgrade. You will not be disappointed by the extra speed and the fact that you get rid of that very annoying splash screen all the time. Very highly recommended. So once you've got it installed and configured, you select your radio. There's radio drivers for just about every radio out there. There's a driver directly that goes to the SignalLink. You have to have control over your radio as well through the computer. And then when you get VARA up and running, you will be selecting your sound card or your SignalLink. If you have a sound card in the radio, you would select the USB codecs in and out, microphone and speaker. This, I believe, is for my my ICOM is for USB, and for mic, you do a test. In other words, you hit the tune button. with low power outage. You want to go as low on your radio wattage as possible and not on a known frequency so you don't annoy people, or use a dummy load, but nobody really does that. And you want to make sure that your ALC, your automatic limiter, is going to be in the lower third of the scale. That's so you do not overmodulate your signal and makes life a lot easier for the people decoding it. Obviously, you would enter your license code and allow yourself to use wide mode of 2700 hertz, which is really neat if you have the license for it. Put your call sign in so it can find local stations to you. I think you do that also in WinLink. So who do you connect with? Well, I'm going to demonstrate it as I said, but you make sure that you have your grid square correct when you first configure WinLink, because when it does a search for your local FM channels or HF channels, it's going to center its search about where you are. So once you start Packet or VARA, you're going to choose your channel selection up at the top of the WinLink window, and you'll see one of these two screens, either HF or the FM. You want to update table via internet. Do not update it via radio, because you'll be annoying everybody in your area for about 15 minutes. And it's a lot faster to do it over the internet. The only reason you do it over the radio is obviously if the internet went out. And on the right-hand side, on the HF end anyway, it will give you a reliability estimate. My suggestion would be, if you have a good radio, good antenna system, completely ignore those numbers, because with the exception of the ones, the top 20, which you know you're going to be able to reach, I've generally every Sunday, I hit stations between 12 and 1,500 miles away on 20 meters where the reliability scale is at 0. So basically you look to see how far they are from you in the distance column, and you use an appropriate band. In other words, 400 to 500, 600 miles away, 40 meters during the day is absolutely perfect for it. Even if the reliability says 0, you will be able to get through. I regularly connect to Kentucky Department of Emergency Management every Sunday morning when it says it's about 5% possibility. So with that, now we're going to have some fun. Let's see, where am I at here? All right. Now, nope, that's not the one. All right, let me take it off studio mode, and we're going to, there we go. Look at that. Okay. This is make sure it's live. It is not. So I'm gonna make sure the camera is live. It probably timed itself out.
There it is. That's live.
There it goes. Okay, so this is my handy dandy FT991A in my rack to my left there. I'm going to open up a WinLink window, which you can see right there. And first thing you want to do is, once you've got it all configured the way you want it to be configured, you're going to open up whatever type of session you want to open up. Packet and VARA are virtually identical, so I'm just going to do VARA for demonstration purposes. You don't have to send or receive messages. You can just do a connection to test your connection. It will connect to the gateway, disconnect from the gateway, and you will be good to go. It takes on FM probably 25 seconds to do a connect and disconnect. It will not try to connect. It senses whether the band is actually occupied or not. I'm going to turn the volume up real quick here. You can hear it's static, and I won't bore you with the static, but it will sense and will not transmit over somebody else sending digital. So you want to open up your session, which in this case is going to be VARA. I'm going to move this out of the way here. And I have an outgoing message to somebody who sent me a message a little earlier today. So I'm going to turn this on so you can see what this looks like. If I can bring it up to the top. There's my session. And First thing you want to do is you set up your TNC under settings. And it's pretty much self-explanatory. 127.0.0.1 is your local host. So you don't have to change that. You tell it where the location of your VARA is, which should auto-configure as well. You want to make sure it automatically launches the VARA TNC when the session is opened. You can do auto connect. I don't with anything but Telnet, unless you're going to leave it open all day and you're expecting traffic. Then when you hit update, you're good to go. The next thing you want to do is go into your VARA program itself, which is right here. And for some reason, it cuts out the menu. But at the top, woof, woof, your first menu is your VARA setup. I'm going to bring this down one, so it's below this. So there's your VARA setup. As I said earlier, you put in your call sign, your registration key. If you've licensed the software, that allows you to choose wide or narrow. You always want to choose wide. Now, there's another feature in VARA that Packet doesn't have. It's called digipeating. That was released about 4 or 5 months ago. It allows basically just like PACTOR, where VARA machines can repeat. You can have a second repeater in the middle and reach a third repeater through RF instantaneously. I won't get into that. It's a little bit more involved, but that's basically what the digipeater is. You'd put in the digipeater call sign in there. So in any case, once you've gotten your system up and running, let me see where my, okay. You're going to choose in your WinLink session, you're going to choose your channel. And this, bring my channel up to the top. This will give you, once again, you update via internet, does it instantaneously. It will tell you, this is the FM version. It will tell you where the closest gateways are to you and what band they're in, obviously UHF or VHF. W0MAC10 is the most reliable one for me. It's 6 miles away, so I will choose that one. Now, you have to set the frequency on your radio manually, which I have already done. So I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way here. So you'll be able to see what the radio looks like. You'll be able to see what the VARA window looks like. And I have already chosen WOMAC 10, so let me double click that. That goes away. And you just start your session. And for some reason, it's not showing. Let me see if VARA FM, VARA setup. And let me see if I can find the right window here. Well, regardless, it is not. Ah, there it is. Okay. There she goes. All right. So what you would do is once you've got the connection window open, you're going to hit start and you'll see it's looking to connect. It has connected. I'll show you what it sounds like. It's sending the message. It'll handshake again after the message and disconnect from the system. And that took a grand total of about maybe 25 seconds. If you have incoming, it will retrieve whatever happens to be in the system for your call sign. So it's kind of neat. I would show you the HF, but I obviously do not have another camera to show you on the other radio, but that's basically the idea of how it works. And I just sent a message to a ham radio operator, and hopefully he will be able to get it back to me because he's new and we've been teaching him how to do this kind of stuff. So anyway, that was your demonstration. Let me get back to my window here, if I can find my my slideshow controls. They seem to have disappeared. Here we go. Okay, so send that message. That's what you do now that you've got VARA connected and operating, packet up and connected and operating. Now, what do you send? If you want to create a new message, you basically have to send an address. This would count for any type of message, whether it's just a straight message or using one of the many templates that WinLink comes with. You would enter your destination. In the case of this window, I'm showing a group that I've already preset with a bunch of call signs that would all receive the message, or you can use individual call signs, or you could also use regular email addresses. Just remember, if you're sending it to somebody that has a WinLink address, you just use their call sign. If you're sending to a real world email address, use the entire email address. And for a plain message just like this, enter the subject and that final line mode band gateway drill. I'll get to that in a little bit. That's for when you do a regular drill. That's the format that the subject line should contain. Enter your message, post it to Outbox, start a session in VARA, Packet, PACTOR, whatever you happen to be using, and it will send, connect and send and disconnect. Now, for those of you that have seen WinLink and worked with it before, there's dozens and dozens of fun forms in there. And these are just a few of the forms that you may run into. There's probably 40 or 50 different forms. Knowing what form to use is one of the most important things if you do any type of emergency communications work, because knowing the form, knowing how to fill it out, how to send it, more importantly, how to fill it out properly is the most important thing for the people that are going to be receiving it. Because these forms do become legal documents in an emergency and they can be called upon at some point in the future. So what forms might you run into? The most popular form, and the form that everybody is probably familiar with from doing volunteer work, is a 213. That's a standard messaging form. A 213RR, which is a resource request form. That's how you send in a message to Joey Clements at Transtar and ask him for 10 pallets of MREs to be delivered. You'd use a 213 Romeo. A 214 and a 214A are personal activity reports. If anybody's ever done any work, once again, with MCOM or done any training up at Transtar or any place, they always ask you to fill out a 214. That is how you justify getting paid. If you are a worker and taking a course or doing an activity, it also documents what you've done, where you've been, and it also allows areas to, or these emergency groups that you're volunteering for, to show, hey, we had all this work done. These are all the hours, the man hours. Can you give us some money? So that comes in handy as well. American Red Cross uses its own version of the 213. It's called an ARC. C-TRAC, which is one of the medical oversight committees for the area, uses a HICS 213, which is a hospital messaging form. There's a TechStar. Hold on one second. Okay, yes. Sorry about that. There's a TechStar form, which is a web EOC resource request form. I do not know if your county participates in the same web EOC that we do down here in Houston. So I threw that in there just in case. We do all of our resource requesting through TechStar over web EOC down here. The 205 and the 217 are two forms that you'll probably come across in your travels. For the Buffalo Bayou in 2 weeks, I'll be sending out a 205 and a 217, as well as a couple of other forms that everybody that's going to be volunteering will get, that show the radio communications plan, the incident activity report, basically the format of what everything is going to be happening and where everybody is going to be, so we're all on the same page. And then there's the good old radiogram, which is the ARRL National Traffic System Messaging Form. It's been around forever. Started out as a 3-cent postcard, and it's pretty much worth 3 cents still today. That's something you'd see used if the NTS or one of the other nets, traffic nets, decide to do digital radiograms. There's a 213 radiogram form that was kind of a hybrid of the 213 and the radiogram. A lot of people in the Northeast use that around Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So here's the 213. This is what it looks like. The old version on the left-hand side in triplicate. It's the most common form used in ICS. It's basically self-explanatory. And when you open it up in WinLink 2000, it allows you to fill in the blanks. And all you have to do is click in the date box. It puts the date and time in there for you. You put in all the data, you hit submit, and it loads it as an outgoing message for you. It automatically puts the subject line in. It's really easy. It was a 3-part memo. Now it's electronic as well. That's the 213 resource form. Basically, a lot of different lines to be filled in with the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the paper and digital version, respectively. This is used more on the professional side for the ICS command staff and logistics, because it has to go to finance every time you request something. Eventually, somebody has to pay for it. So this form shows how all that routing goes. And here's a 214 and a 214 alpha. The one on the left is the one you will probably be using should you attend any event or training in this area. Basically just allows you to say hour by hour, minute by minute, what you did. Went to lunch, came back from lunch, fell asleep at my desk, woke up from my nap at my desk, et cetera, et cetera. Left the scene, arrived at the scene, took a message from blah, 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 and transmitted it to, et cetera, et cetera. For example, one of the other forms that's in here that I consider very useful for this area is a weather reporting form. I'm not sure what category that's under, but for example, this past week, if we had really gotten in the mud, as they say, we were already deployed as radio operators, and National Hurricane Center wasn't activated. But had they been, the National Weather Service asked us to report current weather situation. And if you were deployed to a pod, or you happen to be down in Galveston on the beach someplace, and they asked you for a weather report form, this is one of the forms that's in WinLink. And it allows you to put in all this fun information and send it right through the WinLink system to your net control station. In this case, it would be TransStar and 5TRS, because they were consolidating all that stuff. And then once you hit the submit button and put your address that it's being sent to, in this case, N5TRS, it automatically puts all the information in the email, in the message. It includes an XML document as an attachment. So when the person gets it on the other end and they open it up, they see this. It automatically parses it into a printable form that they can save and print out. So in conclusion, WinLink digital modes are an invaluable resource for message handling, especially if you're going to be doing emergency communications work. Practicing a lot using different forms, modes, and methods makes you more familiar for when the you-know-what hits the fan, and it does quite often down here. Common messaging formatting makes the job of the person receiving the message easier to decipher. Keep it simple as far as the messaging is concerned. Practicing and participating in as many exercises as you possibly can make for a skilled operator. Those of you that have aspirations to do more work in MCOM as a volunteer. And the 213 that you see will be more than likely the go-to form used for most messaging, but not all. For simple weekly check-ins, if you're attending a weekly net, keep it simple, as I said. So that's about it. Oh, by the way, one more thing. I know that was pretty tacky. I just watched the Apple thing the other day. It was pretty neat. Down here in Harris County, we have a weekly digital voice check-in net each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. We allow people to start sending messages from the day before, and we encourage as many people as possible to send as many modes as possible. I personally send and receive, well, I send 7 different modes every week: UHF packet, VHF packet, UHF and VHF VARA, as well as an HF VARA, a telnet, an RDOP, and a PACKET, because I'm lucky enough to have one of those dragons. And basically, the format of the subject line has to be mode, band, gateway that you're using, and the word drill, so we know that it's not emergency or an important message that needs to be attended to, because a lot of us get WinLink messages from all over the place through areas. So when we have to decipher which ones are the drill messages and which ones are not. More information on this we could get into, but there's some of the local nodes that we use, both the VHF and UHF nodes in the area. If you do have WinLink and VARA or Packet, you can just do a local search and it'll tell you around a concentric circle where the nodes are near you. I'm assuming everybody in the area that I'm talking to now can reach WOMAC because that's pretty much the strongest signal around here and should not be a problem. So that's pretty much it. My little origami is going to fly away. Hope you found it interesting, and you can always email me through my website or through my email address, which is my callsign, mycallsign.com. And any complaints, send them to Pete. So that's about it. I'm going to switch back to this. Where am I? You're still seeing my pool, huh? All right, let me close this window and go back to this one. I'm sure you don't want to see my mug, so I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's anybody left in the meeting. Oh, look at that. They're still here. I was hoping everybody didn't bail out and only Kirk was going to be there sleeping.
Oh, well, I only got a little nap about halfway through, you know.
So this presentation was, Pete called me yesterday morning, 8 o'clock, and woke me up and said, hey, you think you can do me a favor? So any inconsistencies and stupidity in that presentation, I take completely on my own. I'm going to stop recording at this time. We'll start taking questions or comments or anything. So in case one of us feels embarrassed by asking a stupid question, I don't have to worry about it.